Welcome. Awesome. So as you guys can see, we are live today. Welcome to Telgorithm's first Q&A of 2024. We've hosted a couple of webinars already this year. We did one with a representative from Cineverse and from the campaign registry. But today is a Q&A dedicated to you and your questions and allowing you to get to know Telgorithm better in the ways that you're interested. My name is Samantha Carrera. I will be your moderator. So like I said, you've joined to learn more about Telgorithm's unique solutions to 10DLC frustrations, as well as have your own questions answered about both. If you are curious to know more about our product features, or if you want to get some of your questions about your frustrations addressed, please ask away. You can use the Q&A tab in Zoom to send us your questions. We're going to get through a presentation as briefly as possible and dedicate the majority of time to answering those questions. So go ahead and submit them as you think of them. We will be storing them, organizing them, and getting to them when we get to Q&A. If you, as always, if we're not able to get your question answered, we will reach out to you individually. So don't worry, you will definitely get an answer, but we'll do our best. A quick housekeeping is that, once again, for anyone who just joined, please submit your questions to the Q&A tab on Zoom. And separately, on each slide, you're going to see something that says PAYG Trials. I just want to make sure that everyone knows this stands for Pay As You Go Trials. We are offering 30-day risk-free trials to campaign service providers to give you an opportunity to experience our SMS API, our unique product features, our customer support, and our compliance guidance. I want to make sure that everyone that joins us today is aware of that offering. If you're curious to learn more about it, please reach out to us at any point. Okay, but without further ado, please welcome the leader of the Q&A, the man of the hour, Telgorithm CEO and co-founder, Aaron Alter.
Thanks so much, Samantha, for setting these all up as always. And thanks everyone for joining today. And for those that end up viewing this in the future, as I know these are difficult or not easy to set up. So thanks for making this all happen. We ultimately do this for the better part of the industry to make sure that there's transparency to what the changes that are the ongoing changes that have been going on in the industry. As you alluded to, historically, we've now hosted the leadership of the campaign registry twice now. We've recently hosted a member of the 10DLC vetting team at the largest DCA in North America. And we're going to continue to host key players within this industry as we continue to move forward to provide clarity and transparency to the industry at large. That said, as Samantha mentioned, for today's call, we wanted to focus this on you. We want to hear from you. I know we do a lot of talking. We'll do some of it today. We really want to lean on you, the audience, to hear what questions you have, what feedback you want to share, to make sure that we're aligned with the overall industry needs, and that also we're continuing to improve ourselves based on those needs here. That said, we want to start just with a quick presentation here, and then we'll follow that. Really curious to hear what questions you have today, and thanks again for joining. I think we just threw up a brief survey here, and that would be appreciated if you could fill that out as well, which will help guide us through today's Q&A as well. While you're doing that, just to highlight here, I'm assuming everyone here that joined is familiar with this thing called 10DLC or A2P 10DLC. A lot of acronyms in our industry or local number messaging, and I'm not sure aware of experience a lot of changes in this area. Change many times, whether for the positive, present challenges and present significant challenges for many companies that rely on business to consumer messaging. And some of these challenges, this is just a list of that here, whether it be this requirement to become registered in the first place, maintaining registrations, preventing rejections. Once you become registered, many times we speak to folks that like, oh, I'm good to go, I registered, or they'll spend months registering, whether it be waiting for their provider to approve that campaign, or whether they're working through a rejection process to make sure they are compliant. And then they run into issues immediately after. Hey, I spent all this time, all this money in becoming compliant, but I see my messages are still failing to T-Mobile, for instance. So the pains don't necessarily go away. Even once you're registered, you need consistently a path, technology, and a provider that can help you with some of these frustrations, not only for registration, but even beyond registration for message deliverability, support, and guidance as A2P 10 DLC continues to evolve. What's here today is going to continue to evolve. There's nothing static, unfortunately, about that. Again, this is ultimately the goal of the industry, is to ultimately create a clear path for legitimate businesses to be able to properly communicate with consumers that want to receive those messages. This is nothing more, nothing less than that. Obviously, it's led to some frustrations, as many times with any rollout, particularly in the telco industry. That said, what is required, what you should require, something that if it's required for your software, no one wants to deal with frustrations for no reason. So clearly, you need local number messaging for your business. And that requires a partner, a provider that will be able to proactively and then even work with you again on an ongoing basis, not only be reactive to something, someone that's an expert in this field that has technologies along with experience with the main players in the ecosystem to be able to continuously guide you. And this is something that you should demand from your messaging provider. If your messaging provider is not providing you with those things, many times we hear from people, I've done this, or I band-aided that, I created my own little queuing system. Well, those are things that your connectivity partner should be doing for you. And who wants to spend all this money on R&D for things that your connectivity partner should be doing, rather than spend those funds on things that you should be doing as in improving the features of your own software to your own customers. And we're big believers in that. And this is a big reason why Telgorithm exists and why we founded Telgorithm. Being the customer throughout myself and my co-founder's history of being the customer of the messaging provider and having to go down many of these rabbit holes to figure out what's going on behind the scenes. We founded Telgorithm to create a service, a true service, and technologies around the bottom line, not just say, hey, we're just going to give you some crazy pricing to a message that will end up nowhere. And the way we break this down into how we look at things is, as I mentioned, compliance guidance. So that starts from day one. When you begin to interact with Telgorithm, we proactively guide you. Our team proactively guides you on what is it that needs to be done. We roll up our sleeves, get into the trenches to figure out what your business and your customers are actually doing. Are they doing everything right? What are the things they need to do to be compliant? And then again, once they're set up, best-in-class support. I know many companies actually say, oh, well, we have the best customer service. We actually live and breathe by that, in a sense that it's not just a statement we're saying, we're actually in this with you together, ultimately to make sure your messages are delivered, because your success is ultimately our success. And we built, again, a team around doing those things. And then, as I alluded to, proactive and automated message management, being proactive about what needs to be done, and again, having technologies that'll support you along the way, even once you become registered. And we'll talk a little bit about those technologies. If you want to slide forward. Again, here is an outline about what makes Telgorithm different. So just we'll call out a few items today here, again, because we want to get to your Q&As, and thanks for filling out the survey here. Campaign service provider support, a big thing we've been talking about now for a few years that many are not aware of, is this idea of there's a few different ways that your provider can register you, or how you should go about registration, particularly if you're what's called an ISV, or a software platform that offers texting campaigns to multiple businesses for them to communicate with their customers. There are two ways to go about registration, and one of the ways is the right way, and one of the ways is just fundamentally off, and that is reseller versus campaign service provider. If you are a platform that supports multiple brands, and multiple brands use your software to text their customers, you must be going directly to the campaign registry itself to register your campaigns, for a whole multitude of reasons, just at a high level here. One is, if you don't do this, meaning you give your customers information to your current provider and they go about that registration, while that may sound enticing from a simplistic perspective, which actually it's not, but while it might sound like that, they take full ownership of your brands, of their information, and you also have a lack of visibility into that as well. Additionally, and again, this is now completely, unfortunately, misleading, but the campaign registry just launched last week a campaign migration tool that is for CSPs and above only. It is not for reseller models. So for anyone here that's listening, if you haven't gone to the registry directly yourself yet, and that's how you're going about creating brands and campaigns and doing vetting, and rather giving your customers EIN numbers to your messaging provider, who should be your connectivity partner, not your CSP, you should be your own CSP, means you are a reseller. That tool will do you no good if you ever wanted to switch providers. It will do you no good if you wanted to multi-thread with multiple providers. You'll have to go about that registration process all over again. Versus being a CSP, there is now actually a tool that the campaign registry has launched that allows you as a CSP to change providers of a campaign without having to create a net new campaign, a net new brand, and go through net new vetting. And that can be not only a tremendous headache, that can cost you literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. And again, let alone the visibility that you get if your provider is operating as your CSP for you. You submit a campaign, you have no idea on its status, what's happened, why it was rejected. You have to be reliant on them to tell you why, which many times can be inaccurate. Sometimes campaigns may not even be processed in the first place. So one of the ways Telgorithm is different, as a prerequisite to using Telgorithm, we require all of our customers to actually be CSPs. There is no benefit to Telgorithm. This is a benefit to you, the customer. If anything, you could argue it's not a benefit to Telgorithm because it makes it easier for you to switch away from Telgorithm if you ever so wanted to do that. We are in this to provide the true, transparent, right service, which we believe, as crazy as that might sound, helps everyone in the ecosystem and their bottom line. As we already touched on 10 DLC registration guidelines, we offer a queuing system, which I'll talk about in a second. That's crucial. And we have strong relationships, not only with the campaign registry. As I mentioned, we've already hosted their leadership twice. You don't see many other partners or any other providers out there with letting alone to have any information from them, let alone have them on a webinar to share information with them publicly. We've done so twice. We've also done it with the largest DCA North America. And stay tuned for Net Number. We plan on having potentially someone from that in the future as well. So we are partnered with all the main players in this ecosystem to provide you with the right advice, the right technology, so that you are truly successful in A2P TLC. Again, this is not just a tagline. This is something that is truly our mission to do that. So again, these are just some ways that we are uniquely different than what else is out there. We also are not a master of all trades, king of nothing. This is something we've dedicated ourselves to, A2P TLC. This is our niche, and this is where we are experts in, and you will not get this service at this level anywhere else, but simply because we are maniacally focused on this area and have been doing so for a while now. Let's slide a little bit further here. So talking further, how we're unique. So number one, automated registration. As I mentioned, we only support CSPs of the TCR, the campaign registry. By registering for the campaign registry, you integrate with their APIs to create your brands and campaigns and vetting. But because we are so closely tight-knit integrated with them on a technical level, it does not require dual work. So when you create a brand and campaign and then tell the campaign registry, I want to elect Telgorithm as my connectivity partner, the TCR itself automatically sends us your approval information, which we automatically import directly into your Telgorithm account for you. And we have webhook subscriptions that you can subscribe to that inform you exactly the moment that that's done. Many other providers, first of all, many don't support CSPs. Again, as we just discussed, you should absolutely search for a provider that does. That's fundamental and that's crucial. But even many providers that do support CSPs require double work in this area. You have to go into the campaign registry, you got to create the brands, you got to do the vettings, and then separately, once that's all done, you then have to go to their APIs and then import and inform them separately about all these brands and campaigns you created for them to then go and validate and verify it. This creates more engineering work, a less of a streamlined process, and more tech to be able to upkeep and maintain, which makes things much more difficult because of our integration with TCR. That's a streamlined motion. You don't have to worry about that. We take care of all that for you, which leads us into the next step. Because we get all of your brands information and their approvals from their campaigns, we store their approvals in their database, in our database. And when you allocate numbers to your brands and campaigns within Telgorithm, this allows us to properly manage your messages for you. And this is a very important point that many miss. And I alluded to this earlier. Once you register, right? So you get your opt-in. I have my sample messages right. My call to action section is right. My website is now compliant. I put an opt-in language on all the forms that require phone numbers. My privacy policy has been updated to make sure that I don't share information with third parties. All of this is all done. You're approved. Your content is great. People, your opt-out rates are low, but then all of a sudden you hit into deliverability issues simply because, and many don't fully understand this, unfortunately, is that A2P 10 DLC versus what used to exist, still exists, but what was meant for person-to-person communication is about higher throughputs. You see, that's why there's this thing called a low volume campaign versus a dedicated campaign versus external vetting that gets me a higher risk score, that gets me what? Higher throughput. So it's the end of the day, the fundamental difference between P2P or person-to-person communication versus a business-to-consumer communication. As a business, you will likely require much higher volumes, higher throughputs than somebody communicating personally with each other via text on a manual basis. And so if this is fundamentally what you're paying for is ultimately about throughput, not compliance. Compliance is the entryway ticket to get to that higher throughput. Then you need some sort of management system or someone in the ecosystem fundamentally needs to be able to manage this for you. And so we understood this early on, and the complexity behind this is, unfortunately, not all mobile network operators operate in the same way when it comes to throughput. As an example, T-Mobile gives a daily limit per brand. So one of your customers is considered a brand, right? Let's just say one of these brands has two different use cases, one for marketing, one for customer service. Well, in T-Mobile's case, the way they look at it is, and I believe it starts at 2,000 messages a day. So this particular brand and all the campaigns that sit under it, so all the numbers associated with this branding campaign, whether it's 2 numbers or 50 numbers, will all share this daily throughput. Well, if it's a daily throughput and to T-Mobile, what happens if you send 2001 messages? That's not a lot. Depending on many use cases, you see pretty quickly how fast you reach that limit. Once you reach this limit, what's going to happen is if you check with your current provider, they've already set an error in place, exceeded daily limit. Imagine this, you spent all this time, all this effort, all this money, all this R&D to become registered, you're doing everything right, only to get disrupted because you hit 2001 messages, pretty easy to hit, which you will be charged for, including a carrier pass-through fee. Now, what you would need is a provider, a proper provider that properly understood this, that wants to be your true provider on A2P 10 ELC. A requirement should be is that they manage this for you so you don't have to run into this problem or figure out a way to manage yourself, which is extremely complex. And just to touch on that, we mentioned T-Mobile has a daily limit per brand. Each of your brands have a different limit. Well, when does this day start? When does it end? Is it midnight to midnight? Is it a rolling 24-hour period? If it's midnight to midnight, which time zone is it in? You know, Mint.com, Metro PCS, they're subsidiaries of T-Mobile. Are they included in the limit? Somebody, somewhere in the ecosystem for your setup would need to be managing this for you proactively, because once you send the message, you could already exceed the limit, it's too late. And so we've understood this very early on, and we built tech that is now almost 3 years old, which we're continuing to iterate as the changes come about. It's extremely complex, that manage this is all for you. Not only for T-Mobile, we do this for AT&T. That's at a per campaign level. Verizon has at a per number level. US Cellular is a per number level, and I can go on and on and on. And so again, the minutia over here to the detail is very important to ensure that all of your messages get delivered. And we built a smart queuing system, which is now patent pending, that literally manages this all for you. If your provider is not doing this, particularly in T-Mobile's case, they've lifted the ceiling, you will inevitably run into a disruption, which you're going to be charged for ultimately. If you try to build this yourself, I don't want to get into it today, but it is extremely complex, not only to build a queuing system that takes all of these factors into account, but also extremely hard to maintain. And at the end of the day, as mentioned earlier, it's not your responsibility to do that. That should be the responsibility of your A2P 10DLC hosted connectivity partners should be managing this for you. And if they just build errors expecting you to hit into these limits, then clearly they're not the right provider for you. And so we built this queuing. And so what we do is we proactively are able to do lookups onto the fly into the OSR in real time to track out and manage at a brand and campaign level your throughputs for T-Mobile, Verizon, and so on and so forth. And we send you alerts when you're about to reach this limit, 50%, 75%, 100%. If you ever reached 100%, we'll queue it up. And then if you want to slide over to the next slide here, we've actually built in on top of that time routing, right? And since I'll give you a quick tip here behind the scenes, T-Mobile resets their calculator every day at midnight Pacific time, including daylight savings time. What if you didn't want a message to get sent at that time because you sent at 9 a.m., but you reached your limit? Well, with Telgorithm, you could add a time route to that allows you to say, hey, Telgorithm, I know T-Mobile has unlocked this for this brand now. Wait till 9 a.m. to send the message. Or maybe you don't even have a need to send the message anymore. I wanted to send at 9 a.m. yesterday about some school alert. Now it no longer makes sense. There's no longer inclement weather today. We provide the ability to, on a dynamic level, per message level, to expire a message, which we don't charge for. So you could say, hey, Telgorithm, for whatever reason, we want to send out this message, and it should be sent out by this time. If for whatever reason you can't send it out by this time and date, simply just expire the message altogether. We don't charge you that. We also offer message prioritization. So you have a ton of messages queuing waiting to come out. You want to set a certain segment of that for priority. We provide that ability. The top two features are exclusive features within A2P 10DLC that are exclusive on Telgorithm. Again, would be much needed in an era where you need to manage your throughputs, make sure that you don't exceed those limits to prevent disruptions. Continuing a bit further here. And then in addition to some of the tech that I mentioned, we've also built some additional tech to make it easy to integrate with Telgorithm and continue forward. Just to call a few items out here, automated number porting. We have a porting API. So Telgorithm is also a hosted text messaging provider. Without getting into a lot of detail here on that today, this means that we have the ability to port over the messaging portion of a phone number, of a given phone number, while you keep the voice, if needed, with another provider. Not only that, we've built an automated porting API that's connected at the carrier level that allows you to port in real time with webhooks tied to that lets you know the moment at a carrier level the number's messaging service has switched over from Telgorithm. So if you're purchasing a number for voice at another provider and you want to host the messaging, or you're migrating over to Telgorithm, this allows you to build everything, provision everything, pre-provision everything on the Telgorithm side, so everything is set up for this number so that literally the second it ports, messages begin going through without any disruption in process. So you would continue sending messages, assuming you're migrating numbers to your current provider. The second our webhook notifies you number is now ported, active, and fully registered, boom, you now can send messages on that side here. I will add an additional side point here. We're also one of the few providers left in the industry that still support and will continue to support unregistered traffic, not for the purposes of having unregistered traffic, because they're extremely high cost at this point, but as a stopgap to allow you to become registered. So that helps in this area as well, to preventing any sort of type of disruption. If you want to switch your current campaign to another provider, many providers that don't support unregistered traffic, there's a period where a number can become unregistered in the provisioning process. Because we support the unregistered traffic, that stopgap prevents any disruption in process. We offer phone number verification. Now, somebody might say here, oh, yeah, every provider tells me they offer phone number verification. Great. What's great about that? Well, here's the thing with that. There's many ways to use a phone number verification tool. Many providers, what they'll go and say is, oh, our tool will tell you whether this number is a wireless number, whether it's a VoIP number, or whether it's a landline number. And many people mistakenly think that if a number is a landline number, I'm just going to immediately remove it from the list. And conversely, if it's a cell phone number, I want it on the list. Well, let me tell you that in today's day and age, with the current technology, you could have a landline number. Yes, your mom's landline number, and we have the ability to activate net new messaging on that number. So a landline, just because it's a landline, does not mean it cannot be set up to receive text messages. Conversely, you could have a cell number that somebody's called up their cell phone provider and has voice on it and has shut down text messages. So the mere fact that an API is telling you that this number is VoIP versus wireless versus a landline in regards to the ability to being able to send text messages to that number is actually besides the point. What you really want to know is this number live and set up in what's called the OSR, which is net number, which is the registrar for all of messaging right now in real time? Is it a real number and set up in real time with an NNID to be able to receive text messages? And that is literally the API we've built directly in real time into the registrar that you can access in real time at Telgorithm to bake in and build into your software's logics if needed. And we basically charge almost nothing for that. It's much less than sending a text message to a non-real or non-active phone number. Advanced reporting. We'll just touch on this one and then we'll move to your Q&A. I know everyone's waiting here. So with advanced reporting, many times with a vendor you're using, you'll get some sort of an error that a message failed. It'll be some code, but you don't know what the code means. You got to go to your provider's website to look up the code. Many times the translation of that code that's showing on their website is very vague. You now have to open up a support ticket, which then gets answered three days later. Meantime, you have a disruption. What we've done is, and we're consistently doing, we're actually now looking to building even AI into that, is at a mobile network operator level, decoding all of the SMPP codes to layman terms, so that when you get a failure, cell phone is turned off, try again in 30 minutes. We provide the code in our callback, and we provide the actual layman description in our callback as well. So right then and there, you can make an adjustment on the fly without even having to open up a support ticket or send us a message in Slack. So these are all things that we're consistently doing to be proactive, that cares about your bottom line, and not just, hey, just come here because we're going to give you point quad 0 or quad 5x per message that'll ultimately end up nowhere here. I've done a lot of talking here, so I'm excited to hand this over to you guys to hear some of your questions today. Hopefully we can get through most or many of them, and we'll see where we could take it from here.
Awesome. That was great, Aaron, and good timing as well.
Awesome.
Okay, so we do have a question I'm going to start with. It's a bit long, so bear with me and let me know if you need me to repeat it.
Of course.
Okay, so we are currently registered as a CSP. However, we also have customers who themselves are software providers that provide a range of services, including SMS confirmation messages. As an example, they provide dentists and medical practitioners with a CRM tool that includes confirming customer appointments. Does this software provider need to be registered as a CSP, or is it a case of registering the underlying brand/medical practitioners individually using the software as the opt-in mechanism?
Ideally, I'm just going to make this very, very clear. You can set yourself up as a reseller. And obviously in this industry, there's many layers deep many times. And this is an example of that. But ideally, here's how ideally you should set yourself up. You should support CSPs under you. So even if you're a CSP, there's a concept of CSP 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth, all the way up the chain. You could be what's called the connectivity partner for that CSP. And then it continues connectivity partner upstream as well. So ideally, any software, whether it's a CRM or whatever type of system it is, that is providing a software that allows that business to communicate with its customer via text to multiple brands, ideally should be registering directly with the campaign registry. And then they could simply elect yourself within the campaign registry for that campaign as the connectivity partner. You would then elect, let's just say I'm making it up, Telgorithm as your connectivity partner, who then elects DCA. We're partnered directly with DCA upstream. And then that's how that kind of works here. So yes, any provider, it doesn't matter. You want your, first of all, it'll help you with regards to setup. It'll give your customer a relationship directly with TCR. You won't have to bill them for those brands and campaigns. They're going to be billed directly, and they'll have that visibility into the ecosystem just as you have here. So yes, any provider that is providing, that has a software that has multiple businesses that will be messaging their customers should go directly to the campaign registry to register as a CSP. I hope that answers the question.
Hope so. Thank you. And someone did ask if they will be receiving this recording afterwards. So confirming to everyone, you will receive the recording. Thank you for attending. Next question Is there a hybrid model for CSPs that allows us to select Telgorithm services, or is it a package offering?
I'm not clear on this question. I could just answer based on what I assume this question is asking. And I'm not sure if it's alluding to what we just answered, but when you are a CSP of the campaign registry, it allows you flexibility to what's called multi-thread. So let's just assume you wanted to use more than one provider, more than one what's called connectivity partner within the ecosystem. I want to use Telgorithm and then another competitor of Telgorithms. I don't want all my eggs in one basket. And so a benefit of being a campaign service provider, a CSP of the TCR, allows you to create one brand, and then the campaign for this brand, the connectivity partner will be Telgorithm. And then under the very same brand, you can then create a duplicate campaign if you wanted to back up. And the connectivity partner is a competitor to Telgorithm. So you don't need to, when you are a CSP and you choose a connectivity partner, you are dynamically able to set different CNPs at each individual campaign level. Get this, not only at the brand level, that brand, your single customer, does not only need to use Telgorithm. Within a single brand, you could have multiple upstream providers depending on how you want to split traffic. This is, again, one of the beauties of being a CSP that provides you that flexibility. Again, I'm not sure if that's the answer to the question. The way I understood the question, that's what I believe where they were going. If not, please message in either now or afterwards, and we'll be happy to clarify if you were referring to something else.
Perfect. On that same note, does Telgorithm offer any support with becoming a CSP? If anyone's here that's not currently a CSP, can we help with that?
Very, very good question. So as I mentioned earlier, this is our area of expertise. Many others are focused on many different bells and whistles or many other features, maybe voice, maybe emails, maybe many different other things and many beautiful features within the telco industry. We are exclusively focused on this area for now and have become really, really good at it. And that allows us to provide unique guidance to our customers. And what's allowed us to do this is by building close-knit relationships with all the main players in the ecosystem, including the TCR itself. As I mentioned earlier, we've hosted Stefan, the vice president of the campaign registry, a few times already, which has been pretty unique. They don't typically allot that many interviews throughout the industry. They're strapped on time, and they've allowed it to us for a reason. We have a close relationship with them. Now, to answer the specific question, I'm going to answer it in a generalized way, and then I'll answer it in a specific way. To register currently as a CSP, the average turnaround time at this time is approximately 4 weeks. And that means from the time you go to Campaign Registry's website and fill out their brief form to register as a CSP until you're approved and have full access to their portal and their APIs is approximately 4 weeks. Part of that process ends with now a mandatorily required webinar. I believe it's a 30-minute webinar that you have to attend that's hosted by the Campaign Registry, which is very useful. After you've attended that, which is a requirement, they will then give you access there. So that is the average turnaround time. That being said, because we do have a close relationship with TCR, anyone that is looking to partner, we have the ability, again, through our close relationships here, to potentially move your application a little bit further along in that pile to potentially prioritize. Now, we can't guarantee it, but many times we've seen certain customers, certain prospects we've associated with that have helped them through. We've got things done in less than a week. But we can potentially significantly help you, especially if you have already been waiting. So many times we'll hit into a prospect that's already begun the process and somehow it's stalled somewhere and they don't know who to reach out to. No one's responding. We've been pushed into situations where all of a sudden we're able to get the right person on it, and within a day it's unlocked. So we can definitely help you along. And by the way, this is not only during registration. Post-registration, you still may have many questions for the TCR. You're not clear on many things. And like I said, we have the ability to assist you with that. Maybe a brand that you entered an EIN number for, it didn't fully get verified through their system. Or an external vetting. There's external vetting partners to higher throughputs on certain brands. Sometimes you won't get the result that you necessarily expected. We have the ability to bring in on a manual basis, the leadership at their external vetting partners and the registry itself to help push things along and to get some guidance and insight into what may be able to help you get a potentially a different outcome. It's not a guarantee, but we've seen a lot of success in that area. So good question. Yes, but working with Telgorithm, you're going to get that, white glove experience, where and best we can to make sure we get you the right answers, and and if we can, to help expedite things along.
Perfect. So we actually got clarification on the question.
Great.
So the question was more around what we use Telgorithm for, meaning what if we wanted to set up brands and campaigns for our customers, but use Telgorithm for other things like time routing, message prioritization, etc.
I think I know where this question is. So this is a good question, by the way, and I love this question. And let me first preface why I say why. We've done what I believe, or we believe, is a great job at giving guidance to the industry for quite a while now on A2P to NLC, so much so that many in the industry believe we're actually a tack-on to a competitive provider. I'll just mention a few names. This is just a list: Twilio, Plivo, Vonage, Telnix, many competitive providers. They believe we are a compliance layer, that you would get everything, all the compliance taken care of through Telgorithm, but then mesh that in with your messaging provider, whoever it is. That is not the case. But we take this as a big compliment. If you falsely assume that we're just a compliance provider and not your actual messaging provider, that is actually not true. We believe that the status quo in the industry should change, so much so that you should believe that your main provider who's supporting your messaging APIs should be doing all of those things. These are not niceties. These are crucial and fundamental to your success in A2P 10ELC. And so we formed ourselves around that. But fundamentally, Telgorithm is a text messaging API provider that includes all of the things needed in a package to make sure you are successful, not just a messaging API that ultimately may get your message nowhere. And so we are both things. We are not a tack-on to any other provider. It's an all-in-one package, take it or leave it. So we provide you the guidance, we provide you the APIs. It's all one package within Telgorithm. And thank you for the compliment.
Awesome. Okay, next question. Some of our clients are third-party collections agencies. Does Telgorithm enable SMS services in the third-party collection space?
No. So debt collections in general, even if it's third-party collections, is not allowed from a compliance perspective. It's not approved for either Mobile Network Operators Code of Conduct or per CTIA guidelines. So currently in A2P 10, you'll see third-party debt collection, unfortunately, is not allowed a category at this time.
Thank you. Okay. Opt-in/call to action. When the messaging use case is alerting or internal communication is not aimed towards the public, how is the opt-in handled? We ask, as this is generally to a company-owned device and forms part of the employee's daily role, and opt-in is deemed part of employment.
So here's the thing. There's two ways you can get opt-in. Someplace that's public, like let's give an example, short of over the phone. So there's a few things here. Unless you're a sole proprietor, every brand, the assumption is you're an established company. Established companies today, in today's day and age, have a website. That's why when you create a brand, it wasn't always required, now it is, you have to enter in a website for that company. So when you create this brand and then ultimately create a campaign under that brand, and that's sent upstream for DCA approval, they, regardless of where you said in the call to action section, your opt-in is occurring, they're going to go to your website, and they're going to look for any form on your website that is going to accept a phone number or mandatorily accepts a phone number to make sure you have opt-in language on that site. So those are visual places that you can get an opt-in. Now, sometimes there are situations where people send a link of some sort, or there's some place that maybe is not readily available to share with DCA about where this opt-in is actually occurring. In such an instance, if you've looked recently in the campaign registry, and this is again another benefit of being a member of the TCR, there is an area where you can upload multimedia. Now that multimedia file can be for either MMS messages you're going to send, but it can also be for a picture or a screenshot of where your opt-in takes place. You would simply upload that as a multimedia under the campaign while you're creating the campaign in the campaign registry, and DCA will review this. You can note in the call to action section, see attached multimedia for screenshot of where opt-in occurs and takes place. And then they will review that, and then they can confirm that that is compliant, and then approve your campaign forward there. So even if something is not necessarily readily accessible somewhere, you could always provide a screenshot of that, of where it is, directly in the TCR, and they will be happy to review that. And again, if it's compliant way of opting in, then they will approve that.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for all your questions. Keep them
Yes,
coming.
appreciate it.
Okay, so this person says that my provider says that they have queuing. I'm not sure if I'm exceeding carrier rate limits. Is there a way to check?
Yes, so I don't know who your provider is, but you could simply just go to Google or go on their website, hit the search button and hit T-Mobile daily limit error. Just simply type that in and see if an error message comes up. And if it does, clearly they are not managing it for you, because how would you ever run into the error? We give you an alert when you're hitting the limit and then ultimately queue. There's no error that your message failed because you've hit into a limit. I will also add that including DCAs, because right now, unfortunately, it's a pinball machine. DCAs are saying it's on the providers. Providers are saying it's on the CSPs. CSPs are saying everyone is shifting the ball around and no one is really, unfortunately, built it. So I want to add another point here as well. Queuing is a very interesting word, and it can be used in many different ways. We didn't make up the word queuing here, but the eye is in the detail. The key is in the detail here. We offer a smart queuing. I don't even like to use the term smart because there's no AI in it yet. It's smart in the sense that it's not just a simplistic queuing. So I'll just give some examples. Many times when you're integrated with a provider, they'll give you an API call limit, right? And then if you reach this limit, they'll then either provide an error. Some providers will then queue up the next API calls. That's not the queuing we're referring to here. That's the ability of how many API calls, not messages, you could send to your current provider. Then there is another layer of that. There's queuing, let's just say for AT&T. So that means, or for account. So let's just say for your overall account, where it doesn't matter how many brands or how many campaigns you have, we're going to give you a certain amount of messages that you could send outbound from your entire account in X period of time. Anything beyond that, we're going to queue. Now, in many cases, particularly in AT&T's case, many providers say, oh, we provide queuing, but what type of queuing is being provided? Are they tracking and proactively managing, in AT&T's case, at a campaign level for each of your brands, how much throughput this particular campaign was approved for, and all its associated phone numbers, and making sure you can't go above that limit at that granular level? Or are they setting it where they look at your whole account and they see, hey, you have 1,000 campaigns. Of your 1,000 campaigns, the highest ones can send 200,000 messages a day to AT&T, and the lowest one could send 75 messages per minute. We're just going to cap everyone out at the lowest limit because it's too complicated to manage them all individually and separately, as is the proper way to do. And then they say, oh yeah, we queue everything for you, and they won't call that out. Hence, you're just being capped. And you might think, well, the messages are not failing. Well, here's the problem. You just spent all this money potentially, or one of your brands did, to get 200,000 messages per minute. And now you're strapped at 75. You spent all this money. Not only that, you have a major delay in getting your messages out ultimately. So there's different variations of that. And you should look onto your current provider's website. It should provide detail saying of what exactly they are queuing and how they go queue about it. And if they're not, that would raise a big flag. And you could also check internally in your own system, have your engineering team look at, hey, wait a second, we have this campaign that just paid for external vetting or has this throughput layer. Do we see that messages have gone out and we got a delivery receipt within X period of time for those messages? And additionally, you could also test this on yourself by confirming this with the end user. Those are all things that many people are not aware of and you should look into. They'll say, yeah, we offer queuing. Queuing could have many different facets to it. You want to make sure that it's being done at the brand, in T-Mobile's case, campaign level, in AT&T's case, and a phone number level in Verizon's case, and so on and so forth, including subsidiaries. So those are all things you should look into. We have not found any major providers that have done it to the level that we have. Now, I will also caveat, and it's like, yeah, that's so extreme. You don't need to do it at all this level. It's good enough if we bucket it. Well, if it's so extreme, then why go about individualizing each of your brands to apply for added vetting or go through different limits for this campaign within this brand if you could just cap everyone at one layer? That kind of defeats the whole purpose. As we mentioned earlier, the whole point of A2P 10 ELC versus P2P is for the higher throughputs. So if the whole purpose of that is because my business needs to communicate in a certain fashion and in a timely way with its consumers, then it defeats the whole purpose to blanket all businesses that have different throughput needs under one blanket.
Right. And you talked about queuing alerts. I know you talked about them a couple slides ago, but I just want to have you reiterate that those are to give you a notice, and so you can be proactive about them. Can you just re-explain queuing alerts?
Yes. So many providers, what they'll do is they'll take an approach which seems proactive, pay us $90 or whatever it is to get external vetting proactively. Now, one of your brands start up, they may just be starting out. They don't need 100,000 messages in a day to T-Mobile. So why am I being forced to pay $90 or whatever it is to get that throughput there? You want to have a provider, and you yourself as a provider to your brands wants to be able to grow with your customers accordingly. And we're big believers in that. So what we've done is we don't require anyone to do anything. When you first start up with Telgorithm, we will proactively go through this and talk with you and guide you about how you should speak to your customers proactively about this. So they're going to come in with a certain amount of messages that you're going to assume, and you'll probably put a little bit of headroom on that. But many of them might say, I don't need more than 2,000 messages a day on T-Mobile. And so why force them into a higher amount? And the way Telgorithm handles this is through alerting. So let's assume that you have a new brand that started out and they've only been given the default 2,000 messages a day in T-Mobile. Then over time, their business is growing, they're starting to grow, and they've reached 50% of their daily limit. 50%, nothing's going to happen. They haven't reached the limit yet. What we'll do is we're going to send you an email alert in real time that will let you know in real time, hey, over the last 24 hours, this particular brand of yours and its associated campaigns just sent 1,000 messages of the daily limit, just getting you alert here that they're growing, and you may want to reach out to them or start to begin working with them now to either going about external vetting to higher the throughput limitation, which is the permanent solution. Still, you may have not seen that alert. You may have not got that message. Now they're growing even further, 75%. We send another alert. And if somehow by then you still haven't gotten the message or haven't gotten around to it, 100% we're queuing the message with all the functions and features I mentioned, message prioritization, time routing, the ability to expire. We're protecting you again, and then we're alerting you so that you can then ultimately go to your customer with the ultimate solution, which is go through that external vetting now that they've grown into that, and properly pay for that amount at that time so that they can then get the higher throughput. And that is what our alerting system does.
Awesome. Okay, we're probably going to move on in a moment, but because several people said that they are having trouble with compliance still at the beginning of this, I thought it'd be worth mentioning an example of our compliance guidance. I know one thing that we do really well that we've helped a lot of people with is website templating. Would you be able to kind of explain that or speak to that, or whatever you think would be the best example of compliance guidance that we offer?
Sure. So there's a number of layers to this, and this could be a Q&A session itself, but I'll just touch on a few points here. So, as we discussed, brands now require, the TCR requires you to create the brand, requires an established website. The website URL should match the brand, and they're going to look at that, right? Now, websites are complicated, and now as an example, you might need you might need to adjust the language within your privacy policy on your website, which is now required. But many of your brands, maybe they don't know who's running the website, or there's an engineer that runs the website, or it has to go through some legal thing within your customer, has to go through some legal things to make a change, and it's not so simple to make the change. And so therefore, you're kind of in a catch-22. I want to get the brand and campaign approved for messaging to send messaging. On the other hand, it's just not that they don't want to be compliant. It's just that it has to go through a lot of these, different little things that are not so simple to do for X given customer. Here, what could I do? And certain industries, this can become complex. And so again, this assumes that your brand ultimately wants to be compliant and they're doing the compliant things, but for whatever reason, they don't either have the technicals or it's too complicated right now for them to make X certain required fixes on their website. In certain instances, what we've recommended is templating. So you, their provider, creates a domain that matches their brand name, and you provide a template for them that we've worked with you on in that particular industry to become fully compliant in. As a privacy policy, any place that's accepting numbers has the right opt-in language and so on and so forth. And essentially you're providing them kind of like a Wix, you're providing them with that website instead of them continuing to use their current website. That is an important note, because if they, during the process, it's fine if they see the secondary site, DCA is going to assume that this website will be used as a sole one and that other one will be sunset. That is the ideal place to do that. But so templating has come about. We've been successful with this for quite a few customers in some, we'll call gray area or tougher industries like insurance or in the mortgage industry where things can get a little bit complex. We've done a good job working with our close relationship with DCA on providing the right guidance for them to provide templated websites. And obviously, templates can't be Blink. All of a sudden, you submit 1,000 brands, and then all of a sudden, you forgot to update the templates. You're going to, you have to properly make sure that each individual template is customized. It has the logo for that specific brand. There's no e pluribus unum, just random stuff just put on the website. They're not going to go for that. You have to properly set the website up. Can be templated. It's got to be set up properly, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. Again, if they're trying to be truly compliant and not trying to divert and shift around attention, that is something that is absolutely permissible. And our team can work with you along with these and make sure you create those templates to offer to your customers. And that could be an added benefit, particularly depending on what vertical you're in versus your own competitors.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron.
Good
I'm going
question.
to move on. If anyone has any final questions, please send them through. We do have 7 more minutes, but I'm going to move on to the next slide because we have a special promotion that we wanted to get in front of you guys. I can take this one. So like I mentioned at the beginning, we have pay-as-you-go trials that we currently offer. Right now, for our attendees, especially today, if you sign up for a pay-as-you-go trial in the month of April and you later become a customer, we will be giving you your first 1 million messages free. Terms and conditions apply. We can talk to you about that later, but we just wanted to give you something special, a reward for sitting here with us. We really appreciate it for sharing this time with us and for sending your questions. Yeah, anything to add to that?
Yes. So besides this promotion, I'll just say a few points about Telgorithm. So as I mentioned, we're a company of transparency. This is not a sales pitch. And I know it sounds sales pitchy, but it's not meant to be that. We truly try to do the right thing within this industry, and that is what makes us different here. And what we've done is we're big fans of, not only for everyone else, but we ask for fairness, trust but verify. Trust but verify means that we could tell you something, any of our competitors can tell you anything from today to tomorrow. You could be sold up anything today. Unfortunately, in this industry, you have many of that. People say one thing, you sign up, and you see another thing. And we know this. We understood this as being the customer for many years of different various providers. And so what we've done is we've created an easy way to integrate with Telgorithm with very low effort. You see many times people confuse, I might have 1,000 campaigns already set up. I have all these numbers and all this stuff. What we try to do is take an approach, forget about your migration. We can deal with that, and we have streamlined ways we do that. But what we ask is for folks to integrate with us, integration to integrate, not migrate, integrate with TCR APIs. It's RESTful APIs. It's extremely easy. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we interconnect with those APIs. Our APIs are very straightforward. If you're using a Twilio type company, we even have a converter where you can literally just change a few bits of code and you're essentially using the same type of setup from an integration perspective on Telgorithm. And my point here is that we provide a low effort way for you to be able to try Telgorithm. Although we do require commits, the way we go about commits is we have a customized SLA that within reason we can negotiate, and that applies to the duration of your contract. We're not into keeping anyone or twisting anyone's arm to stay here. If we're not a right fit, we don't, it does no one any good to force anyone into the wrong shoe. But we make it very easy to integrate. So you can validate anything I've told you today with literally no commit and very low R&D time. Most of our customers take less than a week, some as quick as a day to integrate with our APIs. You don't even have to integrate with TCR APIs to try us. You could just use their portal, create a few brands and campaigns, share them with Telgorithm through their portal, and then use our portal to create a few items. And all you need to do is just integrate with our outbound, inbound messaging API to be able to send and receive messages. So pretty much very little coding is there, and you'll be able to then see, can we approve your campaign? We can't lie because you are going to have your own agnostic TCR CSP account. So you will see when you create a brand and campaign and choose as a connectivity partner, did we accept your campaign? How long did it take for us to get DCA approval? We have no way to put a fence behind it. There's no dark hole. you will be able to validate that yourself organically. When it comes to sending messages, you can be able to test sending at the throughput limits. We actually, every single one of our texting logs shows the carrier, shows breakdown segments, shows the carrier pass-through fees broken down by unit. We put all of this information directly into each and every single message log, so you have this information. And we went to enormous measures to provide this transparency. And so all you need to do is just integrate in a low level to try this, test drive the car for yourself, rather than say, hey, this is, everyone's told me this, or this one's told me that, and this one told me this. What we ask you to do is we provide a low effort way, very minimal effort across the board, non-commit way to actually try it, to see if it actually works. And that's all we ask there. You will be surprised by what you see there. And we ask you to put that same standard on any, competitive partner that you might be in communication with. That's fair across the board. Ask them, hey, you say X, Y, and Z. Well, let me actually see that in action here. And so this is, again, a token of appreciation here for joining here. But more importantly than that, we're into long-term success, your long-term success in this ecosystem, and we're committed to that. And so even for the duration of your contract, the way we set things in place and the way we go about setup makes it very easy for you to, at any time, make sure that Telgorithm is accountable.
Awesome. Thank you. And a quick note on this, you do need to be a campaign service provider, as we said at the beginning, to do a trial, to work with Telgorithm, anything. And if you are not currently, we can certainly help you with that. Aaron explained that through the Q&A, but just wanted to make sure that that is known. And with that, everyone, we thank you so much. Aaron, we have 2 more minutes. Do you have anything else you want to share with our guests before we sign off?
I think what I just mentioned is the main point here. Look, there's many great players in this ecosystem. We actually need more of them. But accountability is very important, and that applies across the board. And what might seem as one thing, I think one of the questions someone asked her earlier, well, my provider said they do queuing as well. Well, anyone gets what type of queuing, right? The key is in that detail there, and that's crucial. That's crucial on A2P TNLC. So you should definitely take the time, right? An ounce of prevention is, as they say, leads to a tremendous amount of potential prevention of headache later on. So that's all that we guide and ask our customers to. And I'll also, again, highlight here that some pretty big logos have recently partnered with us for a reason. They believe in what we do, including Constant Contact. I don't know if anyone's heard of them. They've exclusively partnered with us to use not only our sole proprietor support, but also our unique queuing system. And it's not every day that you'll see large providers and brands like that partnering with a company like Telgo, who is a newer player, although we're already pretty established at this point in the industry, because we are doing the right thing here. And we would love to be able to continue doing that for anyone that's attended today, or for anyone that's attended today that knows a provider that's struggling in this area. We'd love the opportunity to potentially be the provider that is needed for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. Great job today. Thank you guys for joining us and staying with us the full hour. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks.